Hello and welcome. I'm Annie and today we will be making a black forest cake. This is actually one of my sister's favorite cakes and I just made this a week ago for her birthday. It went over very well and everybody absolutely loved it, so I am delighted to be sharing this recipe with you today. For this recipe, it does again come in multiple stages, so we're going to do it stage by stage. I'm going to have the recipe and ingredients list down below, but for each stage, I'm just going to have the core ingredients needed for that section, as there's quite a few. So we're going to be working on the sponge right now. So for this part of the recipe, you're going to need 6 eggs at room temperature, 1 cup of granulated white sugar, 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup of cocoa, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of vanilla bean extract or vanilla bean paste, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So to get started, let me just push this out of the way. Okay, you'll want to crack all your eggs into your mixing bowl. Now, just attach this to your stand mixer or use a hand mixer fitted with the whisk attachment. And you're going to whisk this. Oh, apologies. Add your sugar to the eggs. And your vanilla bean paste. You only get one chance at this, so you guys get to see any snafus. Okay, now that our eggs, sugar, and vanilla bean paste or vanilla extract are in our mixer bowl, we're just going to whip this until it is a buttercup yellow color, very fluffy and light. Okay, it's been about 7 minutes. For you, this could take anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes to achieve the right color and consistency. So as you can see, these are very light and fluffy, very airy, and this is exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so just set that aside for a second. Grab another bowl and a sieve and sift together your flour, cocoa powder, baking powder, and salt. We're just trying to get rid of any lumps. And I'm just knocking this sifter or sieve on the palm of my hand because that helps everything get through. See all those lumps in there? We want to get rid of those. So I just squeeze them with my spatula or spoon. And go again. Perfect. Okay, so we're just going to stir this together until it's well combined. Now, grab your egg, sugar, and vanilla mixture, add this in, and just use a spatula to fold in the ingredients. We don't want to use the mixer to do this because that will knock down some of that air, and we want all this lovely fluffiness to stay in there. So just keep folding, making sure that you go all the way to the bottom. Keep folding until this is well distributed. Okay, once everything is well distributed, grab your 2 baking pans, put in your parchment circles. And just split this batter evenly between the two pans. Now you're going to bake these in a preheated 350-degree oven for approximately 25 minutes or until a toothpick that's inserted comes out clean. So I'm going to pop these in the oven and we're going to proceed with the next step of the cake. We're now ready to make the cherry filling. So for this part of the recipe, you're going to need 6.5 tablespoons of granulated white sugar, 5 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of cherry brandy, and a jar of sour pitted cherries. This one is 796 milliliters, and these are sometimes called morello cherries. They're just a pitted cherry in a light syrup. So we're gonna get started here. First, we want to strain our cherries. And I always struggle opening this jar. Honey, can you come open this jar? I'll loosen it for you. Oh, I got it! Yeah! Woohoo! That's a big accomplishment. Okay, so throw your sieve over top of the jar and strain the juice into a bowl. So just flip the jar over and kind of give it a good shake to make sure that all the juice is strained. Perfect. Now flip it back over. We're going to use these drained cherries later, so just reserve them in the jar that they came in. Just set them aside. So, into a small pan, just add your cherry juice, the sugar, and the cornstarch. And now on a medium-low heat, you're just going to bring this to a boil and make sure that you're whisking the mixture throughout this process so you don't get clumps. At first, you'll see that the mixture is quite cloudy. As it starts to thicken and cook, it's going to turn into this dark cherry red color. Our mixture is now at a boil, and it's quite thick, as you can see. So at this point, we're just going to add our cherry brandy. And you want to stir this in and cook it off for about 1 minute. Remove this from the heat and just transfer it to a heat-safe bowl. Now that we've got our mixture in a bowl, take your reserved cherries and just add them back into the mixture. Stir this up so that everything is well distributed. Okay. Once it's well mixed, just set it in the fridge for at least 2 hours to chill. We don't want to use this when it's hot, as it's far too runny. So we want this to have the time that it needs to thicken up and cool off. Our cakes are fully baked. They've been in the oven for 25 minutes and my toothpick came out clean, so they're all done. Now I want to chill these in the freezer for a couple of hours as our cherry sauce is chilling. But before I do that, as soon as they come out, I run a knife along the outside edge of the cake. Because this cake is so fluffy and light, it will try to shrink away from the edges. I've actually already done that on both these cakes, but if you don't, you're gonna get this cracking. I was just a little slow in getting the knife run around the edges, and that's why this cracking is happening. So make sure that you do that really quickly once they're out. Again, pop these in the freezer for a couple of hours, and because these are such delicate cakes, it'll make it a lot easier to cut them later. Now we're going to make our simple syrup. So the reason we make our simple syrup is to soak our cakes or the sponge layers to make them extra moist. Any simple syrup is generally made with an equal part of water and sugar. This time around, we're making a cherry brandy simple syrup, so we've just got a little bit of extra cherry brandy. So for this part of the recipe, you need half a cup of water, half a cup of sugar, and a quarter cup of cherry brandy. So into a small pot, put in your water and your sugar, and over a medium-low heat, just wait for all the sugar to dissolve and for this to come to a low boil. Our syrup has come to a boil, so now we want to take it off the heat and add your cherry brandy. Okay, give that a decent stir, and then just transfer this into a heat-safe vessel. So I've just got my glass measuring cup, and set this in the fridge to cool as well. We're now ready to make our whipping cream. For this part of the recipe, you will need 3 cups of 35% heavy whipping cream, 6 tablespoons of icing sugar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So begin by adding all your ingredients to the bowl of a stand mixer. Okay. Now you're going to want to beat this with a whisk attachment on about a medium speed until you have firm peaks. Do not overwhip this. Be very cautious about overwhipping this, as when you overwhip heavy whipping cream, it turns from whipping cream to butter, and we don't want butter on our cakes. So make sure that you're testing this once it starts to thicken up to see how stiff the whipping cream really is. Our whipping cream looks to be done. Okay. So, what you want is these nice stiff peaks. And that's when you know your cream is done. Set this aside in the fridge until you're ready to assemble your cake. We're just about ready to start assembling our cake since everything has chilled in the fridge for a few hours, and so we're ready to get going. Before that, I want to make this cake a drip cake. So, you know, those fancy little drips going along the edges. The way that we do that is we make a ganache. So you're going to need 45 grams of chocolate, and mine is a semi-sweet chocolate. So I'm going to be using 68 milliliters of heavy whipping cream. So in a microwave safe bowl, combine these two. And you can also do this over a double boiler or a bain-marie, but we're doing it in the microwave because we've got such a small quantity here. So put this in the microwave at 30-second intervals until it is well combined and the chocolate has fully mixed in with the cream. Okay, I microwaved my ganache for 1 minute or just a few seconds shy. So now this is hot, and we can't use the ganache when it's this hot because it will just pour down the cake a little too much. So we just want to transfer this to a piping bag. My tip is still sealed. Make sure that's the case. Just transfer that on in. I'm just going to get a spatula. Okay. Just going to scoop the remainder that's there. Perfect. And just try to push everything down so it's towards the bottom. There. So we have this. And now just set it aside for about 10 minutes until it cools down a little bit, and then it'll be ready to use. While our ganache is cooling, we're ready to get started with the cakes. So grab your cakes. If you have a turntable or a Lazy Susan, grab that as well. You'll need a cake board, and then your whipped cream that we prepared earlier, your cherry filling that we prepared earlier, your simple syrup from earlier, and in addition, I've got half a cup of shaved chocolate. You can use chocolate curls or chocolate sprinkles, whatever your preference is. And I've also got some maraschino cherries to put on top of the cake for decoration. Okay, so get started by taking these cakes out of the pans. Peel off the parchment paper. Set them on your cutting board. They are delicate, so they will stick to you a little bit. And cut each of these in half. Perfect. I'm just going to set one on the other side of this pan. Okay, and repeat with the other one. To start assembling these cakes, take a dollop of whipped cream and put it onto your cake board. So once we start stacking our cakes, this is going to prevent it from slipping around. Take one of the layers, actually I'm going to take this one, and set it on the bottom. Just kind of press it into that whipped cream. And now we want to separate all three of our layers because we're going to soak them with our simple syrup. So take a basting brush and just dip it in your simple syrup. Simply drizzle it on each layer. Don't do this too heavy of a layer because you don't want this to be soaked fully through. You just want it to be moist and retain that moisture. Perfect. Okay. While that's absorbing, we're just going to fill our piping bag with whipped cream. So just cut off the end. And if you'd like, you can use a piping tip for this. Just stuff it in the bottom. Perfect. Okay. And I'm just going to fill this piping bag with whipped cream. Alrighty, set that aside. Okay, now we want to start building our cake. So I've got my turntable here. I've got my first layer down. I'm just going to pipe a dam or a barrier around the outside of this first layer. Next, you're going to add your cherries. Just a healthy layer of them. And then do another thin layer of whipped cream. grab your next layer and set it on top. I cut this one a little thin, but that's okay. We're just gonna even it out. There. And repeat the process. And we'll set our top layer on here. Now we just want to ice the whole cake. Start with a thin layer of whipped cream around the outside first. I'm just going to clean up my workstation before we proceed with the next step. Okay, so next we're going to put our shaved chocolate all around the bottom. This gets messy on your hands. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it on in there. Okay, we've got our chocolate around the edges and I even just cleaned it up. Now we're gonna do our chocolate drip. So you've got your piping bag. Cut a small sliver off at the tip. And then, whoop, tuck that all in. Oh, that's okay. No, I'm just gonna cut some of this excess off. It's just getting in my way. Okay. So what you're going to do is place your tip at the edge of the cake and just squeeze a little bit until it runs down the side. Then go along, squeeze again. Along, squeeze again. And keep doing this until you've made it all the way around the cake. Perfect. Now, just squeeze the remainder of the ganache on top of the cake. Get yourself an offset spatula. I just had to grab mine and simply smooth out this top. Unless you like this crazy look, but it would drive me insane if I left it. So I'm just going to smooth out this ganache. There. That's beautiful. Okay. Now, just take your remaining whipped cream and pipe some rosettes on top. This doesn't have to be perfect. And now, for the pièce de résistance, I want to take some maraschino cherries and simply place one atop each rosette. There. Your cake is all done. It has been a pleasure cooking with you today. I hope that you've enjoyed this recipe. If you have, click the thumbs up to let me know that you've liked it. If you have any questions or comments in helping get this recipe to work for you, or need any recommendations in terms of substitutions for the recipe, let me know in the comments below and I'll be glad to help you out. I hope that you join me again next time and have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.